What is up? Donnie Baker here with you. Today I'm at B-Side Studios in Burbank, California, my private mix room. So I wanted to talk to you about some things. We've been talking about systems, and we've been talking about, we talked about the minimal mix method system. Last week we talked about the minimal vocal recording method. Okay, this week I want to prepare you. Next week we're gonna bring out and we're gonna talk to you about minimal drum recording method. Okay, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what it takes to get a great drum recording. I mean, honestly, you can do a drum recording with one mic. I mean, that it's been done. It has been done, and I wanted to bring up the fact that you don't have to have a crap ton of mics. You can. I mean, I'm not saying you don't. I'm not saying you can't. I'm saying you don't have to. If you want to do a minimal drum miking, by all means. Dude, if you're getting the sound that you want to get, does it matter? Does it matter if you got top and bottom tom mics? Does it matter if you got 4 mics around the snare drum? No. No, it doesn't. If you're getting the drum recording that you like, the drum recording that fits the song, a good drum session is planned. A bad one is just improvised. You just, okay, let's do drums. Yeah, you kind of can't do that with drums. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts as far as audio goes when it comes to a drum kit. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff that you have to take into account. Okay, like, so if you don't have a session plan, if you don't have track sheets, if you don't have a mic layout, if you don't have cue sheets, what's a cue sheet, you ask? We're gonna get to that. But if everyone is just guessing what a drum miking session, a drum recording session should be, I mean, honestly, you're hurting yourself. You know, the idea is that you want to capture the best drums that you can on the way in, so that you don't have to do a bunch of work on the way out. Look, I've done drum sessions where as an engineer, working with another producer, and the producer said, oh, just put SM57s everywhere, bro. I'm gonna trigger everything anyway. Cool. All they wanted was the actual hits of the drummer hitting the drums, and they were gonna take those transients. You've used Trigger. Everyone knows what Trigger is. There's Drumagog. There's a couple of good drum replacement apps out there that can help you fix those things. Okay. What I'm talking about is just the idea going into the session that's what you're gonna do. You know, so I don't know. I'm of the mindset that you should capture what you want to capture. You know, I mean, yeah, okay, cool. You should have a good room. You should have decent mics. They don't have to be perfect. You should have decent mics. Even that session that I just talked about with the guy that replaced all the sounds, he said, I'll just put 57s everywhere. I did, but I also put up room mics. Okay, I had a stereo room mic, I had stereo overheads, and I had some far room mics. I had a mono, we always did a mono crunched mic, just in the corner somewhere, and we would just like a listen mic, and we'd crank up the compressor and just make it all crunchy and nasty. But that's something that you could blend into your final mix to give it some lack of a better word, balls, you know? So I'm just saying, if you're trying to figure it out while the drummer's sitting there, you're already behind. I mean, honestly, man, you know the drums are coming in. You know you got a drummer tomorrow coming in at, you looked at the calendars, he's coming in at 3 o'clock. Why can't you have things set up when he gets there? You know, be ready. Be kind of ready to go, right? So, session planning. This is important. So, I'm actually going to share a track sheet with you here. Actually, you know what? It's in my community. I'll leave a link to it down there. The community is free. Come hang out. Come grab it. There's track sheets. There's templates. Everything you need is over there. Okay. But come grab the track sheet and the cue sheet. Awesome. These are tools that you can use on every session. Not just drum sessions, but every session. Cue sheets are they're not required. Makes life as if you're the engineer that's recording, and then you're also going to be the engineer that's editing and mixing. Cue sheets are kind of necessary. What a cue sheet is you basically keep notes, of okay, that take was really good. I like the bridge of that take and mix it together with the outro verse on that one. Maybe the intro verse from take 3 will work. Whatever. As the engineer, you're keeping notes for yourself. That's what a cue sheet is. Also on a cue sheet, you're keeping track of tempo, keeping track of the key, the track sheet, between the track sheet and the cue sheet, which actually mine are in the same package. You're also keeping headphone mixes. What do they want in their headphones? But you're also keeping track of the key. You're keeping track of tempo. You're keeping track of, I don't know, any notes that you might need to keep track of. Because if you're recording and then you're going to be mixing, I digress. You want to keep track of these things, okay? We're going to dive a little bit more. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into these things next week when we talk about the actual drum recording, okay? So the engineer should already know what's happening before the first tick hits the drum, okay? I'm just saying. So a couple of things you want to know prior to the drummer even coming in the room. Is he using your drums? I mean, you might not even have drums, so maybe the drummer's bringing his own drums. Is he right-handed or left-handed? Dude, believe it or not, that's a pretty important question, because what I do is I pick the mics that I'm going to use. Okay, so another question is, how many piece drum kit? How many shells? So I need to know how many tom mics I need to lay out. I need to know how many. Maybe he's got 2 floor toms, one on each side. Maybe he's got 2 hi-hats, one on each side. These things happen. Okay, so you kind of want to know what you're dealing with when the drummer's coming in. All right. At the same time, right or left, because you want to know whether to put the snare mic over here and have it ready to go, or you're gonna have to move it. If he surprises you as a left-handed drummer and you set up for a right-handed drummer, you're gonna be swapping everything. Okay. So, but yeah, have everything ready. Fill out dude. I used to fill out my track sheet the day before, and I would literally hand it to my assistant or to my interns, and have them pull the mics, put them on the stands, plug in the cables to where I said to plug them in, and then do the patching. So when I get there, all I got to do is open my template, and things should be ready to go. My assistant has been doing it for a minute, so he understands. He knows how I like to work, and he understands how I like to set things up. Sometimes, and I've had assistants that would just set up the session. And pretty much all I got to do is come in and press play, bro. I would make sure that the mics were in a position that I like to start, and then during the when we're listening to things, I would go in and move mics. Like you might need to change the angle on the overheads, or you might need to maybe swap the mic out on the snare drum. Maybe the snare drum was a piccolo, and that Audix i5 just wasn't really grabbing that crack that you need, so you needed a 57 on it. You know what I mean? So yeah, there are little things that might happen specifically when you're talking about that kind of stuff. Okay, track sheets. Again, going back to track sheets, okay? Track sheets I'm going to show you some right now. That's my track sheet. I'm showing it to you. This is what it looks like. This is how it works. Basically, you're keeping track of what mic is on what instrument going into what input into your system. Why do track sheets matter? It's going to organize your session. You're going to have a faster setup, clear channel labeling, so you're ready to go when you get ready. I mean, my track sheet and my template coincide, because this is my studio. You know what I mean? Easier recall later. Honestly, yeah, you might need that. Typical drum track sheets might include kick, snare, top and bottom, toms, a hi-hat, overheads, room mics. You see mine here, okay? So track sheets keep the session organized and keep things moving fast, okay? So generally, if you're working with a full band, let me just say this, and we're gonna get to this next week as well, but let me bring it up here. If you are working with a full band, try to get the drummer to show up a little early. Try to get the drummer to show up earlier than the band, because you kind of don't want the band sitting around behind you in the control room and talking and having fun and hanging out and drinking beers while you're trying to dial in the drummer. Okay, I mean, dude, it takes a few minutes. Even though I've done it for a minute, it still takes me a few minutes to have the drummer. I can have my intern hit on the drums, but he's not the drummer. So he's not going to be hitting the drum like the drummer's hitting the drum. So I would have the drummer in there hitting the drums so I could dial things in. I want to dial in my compression. I want to dial in my gain, my EQs if I need an EQ, these things. Okay, I want to give him some prettiness in his headphones, like a little bit of reverb on the snare, so he's feeling like he's at the club or at the stadium. So there's a lot going on when it comes to drummer. So maybe have the drummer show up a little early so you can dial these things in. I mean, I think there was a record we did maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and the producer, I wasn't the producer, I was just an assistant engineer on the gig, and dude, they took the first day they were recording an album. I understand. They were recording an album, and they took the first whole day, 10 hours, in the studio just to get the drum sounds, just to set things up, just to tweak the mic, just to hit on things and hear how it sounds, tune it, fix it, change the drum heads. Bro, literally 10 hours just to get the drum sounds, but that was honestly one of the best drum recording sessions that we had in the studio. To this date, that's one of the best drum recordings we ever had in the studio, and it was amazing. Not only was the producer awesome, not only was he a great engineer and a great producer, he just understood how things should sound. And we used the room. I mean, we had a lot of room mics and everything, so the room sounded great. The close mic sounded great. The drummer was really good. That helps. So his drum kit was really nice. It was in great shape. You know, they had the drum doctors come over and head it and tune everything. It was awesome. It was a great gig. Okay, so cue sheets. We talked a little bit about it earlier. Cue sheets help with song structure, where to place punches, arrangement sessions, notes, producer notes, engineer notes. The producer is also going to have it. So if you are the engineer and the producer, yeah, you're gonna have one. But like, I've been an engineer and then we had a producer, and I've also been a producer and I had an engineer. So I've got my own notes. The engineer's got his notes. If nothing else, just get yourself a little notebook and write things down. As an engineer, write things down. Have notes for your session, okay? You'll see in my track sheet that you go get for free over in my community that it's got a place for notes, okay? Example notes are like, you're gonna keep track of where the intro is, where the verses are, where the chorus is. Oh, you're putting that in your DAW as well, right? But you're also going to understand which take is the best. Okay, take one of the chorus was the best. I like that. A cue sheet keeps everybody focused instead of just guessing on the music, okay? Have a mic plan. Again, we've talked about this a little bit ago, but have a plan. The number of mics you wanna use. Again, mic types. Large diaphragm condenser, small diaphragm condenser, dynamic mics. What are you gonna use for the room mics? What are you gonna use for the overheads? Okay, get that room sound. Bro, the room sound alone is gonna make or break your drum session, okay? This isn't about gear, this is about intention. You might have the best mics in the world, but if they don't sound good in your room, or you don't place them in the right place, it's not gonna work out, okay? The mic plan should match the sound that you're trying to achieve, always. Okay, let's go with the session flow of a session, okay? You wanna have the sound check. You wanna have check the tuning on the drums, check everything, make sure they sound great in the control room as well as in the room, okay? The take structure, all right? How are you gonna save playlists? Are you just gonna take takes? Are you gonna punch in? How are you gonna do that, okay? The playback review. Bring the musicians into the control room. Let them hear what you're hearing. Don't just let them hear stuff in the headphones. We have studio loudspeakers, but they still don't sound like the control room because it's a different setup, okay? So we would bring the band in. Once I felt things were good, I would bring the band in and go, hey, come listen to what we got. I think it's awesome. Okay, quick notes between takes. You would want to talk to the drummer. The drummer may want to ask you something about his headphone mix. Whatever, you know what I mean? So yeah, you might say, hey, that roll that you did between verse 1 and the chorus, I like that, but if you could just calm it down and we'll do that bigger one later. Yeah, that kind of stuff. So usually drummers are pretty good about picking up on that, and they understand it and they get it, okay? Momentum matters in a drum session, so don't let things relax. When you got a good rhythm going, make sure that you don't have to stop and read the manual, okay? Please don't do that. Why preparation is gonna save you time, okay? You're gonna have fewer technical delays because you're gonna work all that stuff out in advance, okay? Better drummer performance because you're not gonna have to stop between. Okay, cleaner recordings and faster mix. So it's going to be faster mixing later because we've talked about this in the last two things anyway. Okay, try to make your stuff sound the way you want your stuff to sound and press record. If you get that done, man, mixing is like you're just balancing. You're balancing volumes, pan, and balance between instruments. Okay, so I'm going to bring you into next week. You know, we're going to be talking about that set up for the drum ebook. Okay, we do have a workbook that's coming for next week. Okay, next week we're going to cover how to actually record the drums, how to set things up. I'm going to have graphs, I'm going to have pictures. You guys are going to like it. Okay, mic placement, we're going to talk about gain staging, drum recording workflow basically is what we're going to be talking about. Next week we're going to get into the actual drum recording method. Okay, we're going to talk about the book. We're going to talk about what's coming. Okay, so what I do want to talk to you about as well is, let me just say this, man. Professional sessions start before the first mic goes up every time, regardless of whether you're working on guitars, regardless of whether you're working on vocals, full band, drums, doesn't matter. Okay, professional sessions start before you touch a microphone. All right, now let me invite you over to our Skool, the community. It's free. Come over and hang out. There's so much information over there. The coolest part about it is there's other guys just like me and you in there, and we're talking. We're hanging out. We got ideas. We're sharing. Oh, dude, this week alone they shared like $500 worth of free plugins. I mean, it is crazy over there. Come over and hang out. I'll put a link in the description. I'll also put a link in the first comment. So come check it out. It's absolutely free. We'll see you next time. If you missed last week, I'll put a link to it right here. Go look at the vocal recording method, minimal recording method for vocals. Okay. See you next time. Donnie B, I'm out.